Welcome to the Leadership Unveiled podcast series by the HR Association of India. The series explores the minds and journeys of the pioneering leaders, entrepreneurs making waves in the business world. I'm your host, Neha Jagnani, and today we have a truly special guest, a visionary leader, an operational maestro whose journey brings both excellence and inspiration. He's none other than Utsav Malhotra. Utsav spearheads marketing for India's largest smartwatch brand, Noise. He has built India's largest bootstrapped D2C business through frugal marketing, leading Noise to market leadership and global scale. Utsav oversees business strategy, marketing initiatives, and operations, driving Noise's long-term success with his deep understanding of the D2C industry and innovative approach. He has executed award-winning campaigns with Virat Kohli, Taapsee Pannu, and Rishabh Pant, achieving the highest ROAS in the category while growing Noise with zero external capital. Utsav is a recognized leader in marketing industry, featured in BusinessWorld 40 Under 40 and IBE Marketing 40 Under 40. He recently won the Best CMO Growth Award from the Pitch CMO Summit. Utsav, thank you so much for joining us today. How do you feel about this?
Excited. I think look forward to the conversation. Eagerly looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Utsav. So to kick things off, Utsav, I want to know if you can tell us a little bit about your career path and how you sort of navigated through to this role of COO at Noise.
So I think navigation is the operative word in that. I've had a typical career path where started with the sales, followed up with the marketing, brand sort of an assignment. And then survived earthquakes, pandemics, market crashes, all sorts of things,
Right.
only to realize that I have some sort of a knack of managing chaos. And that comes with the territory of being a COO, where fundamentally you are designated as a duct tape leader that needs to ensure that you're fixing and holding things together and the business runs smooth.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's been a very, very exciting journey. I've had about a decade in retail, and I've had stints with consulting. I've worked with young startups, but to be in a situation where I had the opportunity of working on a young tech business, where one could possibly leave a mark on how India is perceived in the tech space. I think is an opportunity that I grabbed with both hands. I thought, although I had my fair share of fears of what it would be dealing with a room full of techies, but I think the journey's been fun. I think the fact that I realized a bit of strategic mindset combined with unfettered sort of stubbornness, you could find your way through this. So that's how I landed here, and I'm glad that since the time I came here to lead Noise, we've only scaled newer heights, and that's been the journey. So
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So my next question, Utsav, is what strategies do you use in order to motivate and inspire your team?
I think nothing beats a good coffee and a snack full sort of cabinet, but I do a fair degree of things. I think you have to have an open door policy, and by an open door, I literally mean pun intended. You've got to build access for people to be able to walk up to you, but you also have to have this door open, right? You have to have an open mind, especially when you're dealing with millennials and Gen Zs and people who are half your age, literally. So the ability to be able to kind of communicate with them, and the fact is that nothing beats a happier team. If you have a happy team where they know that teamwork matters, everybody feels valued, heard, bellies are full, I think it goes a long way.
Right.
But I use a few techniques, so to say, Neha, and I can break these down for you. I think it's important to build a culture where people generally feel valued. So having team building shenanigans, ensuring that there is camaraderie where people don't operate as silos is critical. I think equally important is that you are able to give public praise but private critique.
Right.
You realize that not only are you dealing with a generation which is principally a lot more woke,
Mm-hmm.
but that much more sensitive. You have to be kind of careful with how you are leading them, and it's this is an age old adage, right? This is not created today. That if you want to develop a good team, you have to be able to lead with example. You have to be able to roll up your sleeves. You have to be able to show them that things can get done. The other bit that I constantly keep practicing is clear communication. If you are able to just ensure that your expectations are clear, of course, sometimes you land terrible jokes whilst making that communication because that allows for the message to land better. But if you are transparent and if you are clear in what you expect, and you don't have it, sorry, what did that really mean sort of moments. I think it goes a long way. And finally, I think humor and humanity are two aspects that I put at the core of everything that you do. You have to, and leaders across the world have spoken enough and more about humanity and empathy. But I think very less gets spoken about humor. We all work in high strung sort of environments
Mm-hmm.
when you're a growth business. If you're able to dash a bit of humor in, it just allows you kind of do things better. And finally, I think it's about building sort of fostering a growth mindset. I just had a post put out a couple of days ago, and this was more reflective, and glad that we're talking about this today. That as a leader, you are able to bring out the best in people when you put their objectives aligned with the larger business objectives. It's not about thinking about where they're going, it's about making them really understand how they will grow as the business grows. So, bit of a sort of a hacked up toolkit, a few sort of things that work for me, but yeah, they really help.
Sure. So to summarize, there is open door policy, clear communication
There
and
is an
transparency.
open door policy for sure, and there's an open mind policy that you must
Right,
have.
right, right,
You should have public praise and private critique.
right,
You must engage in some sort of shenanigans to build a team.
right.
Uh, you have to have crystal clear communication.
Communication.
You should lead by example. Have humor and humanity thrown in,
Right.
and foster a culture of growth. So slightly long list, but kind of works.
Absolutely. So my next question is, how do you align operational strategies with overall goal of the organization?
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, you have to start big. You have to start with the big picture decoding. If you don't put the grand picture out there, it doesn't help. You have to have a clarion call. You have to be able to reduce the big picture down for people to know what exactly are you chasing. I mean, I remember when we wrote our mission at Noise, that of democratizing consumer tech. You realize that when you put a word like democratization in, it means heavy owners for you to deliver. It basically means that you will build access, but you will also build access.
Right.
Access in terms of geographic access, but access in terms of prices for them to not be prohibitive. But fundamentally, what are you saying? You're saying that we will touch as many lives as you possibly can.
Mhm.
And the moment you put that out there, the team then knows that you're chasing a market share, you're chasing consumer experience, and the whole thing just begins to flow out of it. So have that big picture decoded to what it means for different people at different stages. Um, don't stop at that. Build action plans. Unless you got clear, build actionables. What do these things mean for me on a daily basis? What do these steps mean? Like, you can't build a Lego castle without instructions. So unless you've got instructions clearly laid out, it doesn't mean anything to anybody. Right? So do that. Put action plans in there. But
Mhm.
when you're building action plans, the third bit is ensure that there is cross-functional harmony. Otherwise, you will run the risk of interdepartmental sort of conflicts. Things don't get done. You indulge in finger pointing, etc. The final bit is monitor and adjust. You have to have regular check-ins. You have to have reviews. You have to tweak your strategies. You have to have the ability to be flexible. And I think you'll do fine.
Right. Great.
The four things, decode the big picture, build action plans. And by action plans, I mean put ownership, put timelines, break the strategy down, build cross-departmental harmony, and then monitor and adjust.
Regular
So
check-ins.
that goes a fair degree.
Right. Great. So my next question is, Utsav, is what are some of the challenges, if you have to talk about that, you face as a COO, and how do you overcome them?
Well, as a CEO, I think the biggest challenge is that think of the life of a juggler in a circus, right? So you are balancing multiple hats. It's just that instead of those plates that don't exist that you are balancing, you are still juggling a lot of priorities, right? Most people, when they look at functional leadership, think that's the important bit. But you are the one that's stringing everything together. You're just holding things together to ensure that the macro vision gets built out.
Yes.
So I think balancing urgent tasks right now versus the long-term strategic goals, I think keeping that balance is the first order of priority, and the biggest sort of challenge. Of course, there is solutions that exist. Ensure that there is delegation, ensure that there is prioritization, ensure that teams know what is important for them. There is management tools where you can do a 2x2 of urgent important. But I think the ability in the macro scheme of things to be able to balance that, I think, is the biggest task and the challenge that you struggle with. The other bit is resource management, right? Which comes as a subset of this, where you realize that you are stretching teams on tasks and stretching them thin at times, which may be relevant today, but maybe contextually slightly deterring in the long-term scheme of things. So you have to ensure that there is a fair degree of blend of data and instinct in terms of how you're balancing your resources, because it's about balancing for like a forwards and a back current sort of a team, right? There is a team that's working on the challenges for tomorrow, but you're also keeping your house in order today.
Right.
The third bit I would say is a challenge of communication breakdowns. As the teams become larger, you realize that becomes the biggest piece for you to kind of solve for, where you are solving for miscommunication, wrong representation, misunderstandings, etc., etc. So, like I said earlier, also, if you keep it transparent, if you keep it clear, if you keep it easy for people to be able to decode, I think life is easier. One more challenge that I can think of is change resistance. I think that's the bit that I think most businesses understand in their growth journeys, because as you begin to grow, you realize that there are situations of people getting stuck with, oh, things get done this way,
Right.
but what you hear doesn't get you there, right? So to be able to kind of navigate that is another challenge. But I think these are challenges that are just not specific to me. They're specific to they apply to every CEO out there who's dealing with organizations that are growing through burgeoning sort of growth.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think some bit of bribes, coffee, and cookies keep you going. that works if no other strategy does.
Wonderful. I think it was lovely how you broke down to all the points and aspects that are there that could cause challenges, but at the same time, they'll always be there and play a role, and to navigate through that is the way.
True that. So ops is about the ability to be able to execute every single day, right? There is frameworks and there are playbooks,
Right.
but it comes down to the ability of executing that day in and day out.
Right.
So yeah, the biggest sort of trait for being a successful CEO, I think, is the ability, so to say, to be at it.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So this brings us to the last question, Utsav, which is, what advice would you give to someone who's aspiring to be a COO someday? So if you have to give an advice to the budding professionals out there.
I wish I could say think again, but there is a few things I can leave on the table. I think start by embracing chaos. Um, Operations can be unpredictable. You don't control all variables, right? So have the ability to be able to deal with ambiguity and chaos because they will come your way. That's the biggest advice I can give to anybody. You can kind of solve for it by learning how to prioritize. That helps, and I've spoken about it. You should have the ability to communicate clearly and succinctly. I think I've spoken about it. But I think more importantly, remain adaptable, remain flexible. That goes a long way because you will be thrown deep end of the unpredictable. You can't foresee every single challenge. But most importantly, I think lead by example. Operations is about espousing belief. Operations is about galvanizing people and galvanizing them to believe in what vision you set them out to. So the
Right.
way I look at it is that there are three stages, right? As a business leader, as a CEO, you do three things. You set the vision, and that comes on the back of clear communication and good strategy. Then you galvanize people who believe in that vision, and therefore you have to have the ability to work with them. And the third thing is ensure that nothing breaks. And therefore, I say that this is more like duct tape sort of leadership to ensure that the holes are plugged. So if you can do this, I think you can succeed. I have, a lot of other people have, and I'm sure many will outdo us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Utsav. This brings us to the end of this podcast, and I'm honored to have you today here. It was personally my pleasure to host you here, and some great insights there. Our listeners, I'm sure, are going to greatly benefit. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, pleasure speaking to you.